Hello, everybody. It's Monday. How are you? Hi, Terry. Hi, Cindy. Good to see you. How are you? Things going well for you, I hope? Goodness. I need a haircut. I know. How much of the time do you hear me complain about needing a haircut? Probably a lot. Excuse me. Hello, Peggy. Hi, Starla. Good to see you all. Still having a twinge in the throat area. Eventually it's going to go away, right? It's Monday. It's a good Monday. It's a good day. It has been a great day. I hope you guys are having a great day. That you've had a great day. Starla, I was watching Janet Young earlier. And I saw that you sent in your ATC cards for trading before anybody else did. Good on you. That has never been my forte, being early. Hey, Amber. And hello, Connie. They looked really nice. I'm assuming they were Egyptian. Is that what they were? I mean, look at me assuming things. Never a great idea, but that's what my assumption was. I was kind of in and out of the chat over there. Actually, I was in and out a lot. That sounds like a fun ATC swap, though. They're at Janet's channel. Janet M. Young is the channel name. Janet lives not too far from, well, a couple hundred miles or something. She's not too far from me. Anyway, she and Dee Dee Willingham are doing a passport ATC swap. ATC are artist trading cards. And they are 2.5 by 3.5 inches. Egyptian. Good, I got it right. Oh, I understand. Good for you. Got an idea? Had to go for it. Anyway, you send in to them, you send to Janet 10 ATC cards, and then she shuffles them up, and you get 9 back, I think. I don't know. 9 or 10. Hey, Amber, how are you? Good to see you. Good to see you. So, it's Monday. All day long. It's been a really good day. I've gotten a lot accomplished today, which is wonderful. I haven't said that for a while. Hey, Darla. Good. You are here from the beginning. That's wonderful. Good to see you. I hope you've been doing some happy stitching. So, all right, let's get busy. I have lots of things that we're going to go as long as my voice holds out today. I've been pushing it a little bit more each day and not talking a whole lot on the days that I stream, so then maybe it'll hold up. Anyway, it is absolutely beautiful here. I don't know if you noticed the thumbnail I put up over the video is a spring tree, but the spring trees this year have just been amazing. The red buds have just been off the charts gorgeous. So we had red buds, we have crab apples now are in full bloom, which are just incredible, and the dogwoods are just starting, and the magnolias were beautiful too. Oh, you're admiring how organized my shelves are. That's only because I just got them organized when I moved in. I just noticed this little book. I thought I'd show this to you when we go through the art stuff. Anyway, so we're going to do several things. So if you leave, you're going to miss something because it's going to be a whole variety. It's a hodgepodge kind of Monday. I know, the dogwoods are just stunning. The dogwoods, my favorite thing about dogwood is that their blooms are, the structure of the blooms are kind of in layers, you know. They're not like any other flowering tree. And the pink ones this year just seem so pink. I mean, they are really unbelievable. Amazing. Oh, the wind has caused the trees to, that's unfortunate to lose their blooms. Dogwood, I think, is just glorious. Starla and Darla, yep. The pink ones, yeah, the pink ones are just unbelievable. Oh, quilting fabric organization. Oh, you got him out of the storage unit. That is great. That is cool. My stepdaughter had, speaking of Starla, my stepdaughter had an aunt, and let's see, there were two cousins. Two aunts each had a daughter, I think is how it was, and one of them had Starla and one of them had Darla. It took me a very long time to get straight who was who in that situation, but anyway. Oh, that's nice. Hey, Brenda. Oh, you got your stuff out of storage, Brenda? That is great. That yippee feeling is so good. I'm going to feel yippee when I get all moved in one spot, although I'm making significant progress. Significant progress, because I am going through and making hard cuts. I'm sure I'll make more hard cuts once I move over here what I think I want to keep. Anyway, enough of that. So I'm going to show you this this little book because I just happened to see it on my shelf. So I'm going to show it to you. And this is a book I made a long time ago. I don't know if I've even dated it. See, you should always date your stuff. This was a book based on Kelly Ray Roberts' book. And if I could put my hand right on it, I'd show you the book. But this was from the book club that I was a part of for so long, which sadly that store has closed now, the store where I went for all of the book club things. A store owner's husband retired, and you know, for some reason they decided they wanted to be able to go visit their grandchildren, and she didn't want to be constrained by a retail store. Can you imagine? Anyway, hello, Dorothy. I hope you're feeling better today. Hello, Angela. And anybody I missed seeing when you came in, hello, hello. I'm Barb, in case you don't know. And I'm glad you're here. Thanks for joining us. Anyway, we had a book club, so we met once a month. And in that book club, we went through a different art book each time. Creativity, an art book. So this is based on one of them, and it was a Kelly Ray Roberts book. So anyway, this was the book, and there's a reason I'm going to show it to you tonight. So on the spine, this is fabric collage, and I think it must be fabric and paper because of the way it feels, but it's been so long since I did it, I am not totally sure. Anyway, the letters, I wrote the letters ART and put those as a part of the binding. So this is probably the simplest binding you could do, which is 3 holes. There's no eyelets, there's no nothing. It's just 3 holes, and put some different fibers, seam binding or silk ribbon, rayon ribbon or silk ribbon, and another ribbon are the bindings. Anyway, the background of it is collaged paper, and there's modeling paste, and there's, I don't know, inks and stuff on it. This is very much inspired by Kelly Ray Roberts. This is something that I painted on here, this image, and but that was very much inspired by Kelly Ray Roberts. That was painted on top of the collage. And as I recall, this is all book covers. Yeah, it is. It's book covers that I turned into pages, so you can see the edge here. So I made the pages from old hardbound book covers. This was a super old picture of me taken at a bad time, and it's not a great picture, but you know, it is what it is. And I sanded it, so I distressed it. I don't know. I don't even know why I did what I did in this book now. Anyway, and then I put, and every page is the same sort of thing. So all of this stuff here, this is texture paste put through a stencil, various stencils. Each page is collaged with different papers. Most of them commercial, either text paper or scrapbook papers. Anyway, everything changed the day she figured out there was exactly enough time for the important things in her life. I don't know where these quotes came from. I have no recollection of that. Just various and sundry different places. In my dream, the angel shrugged and said, "If we fail this time, it will be a failure of imagination." And then she placed the world gently in the palm of my hand. This one, I know where this quote came from. That came from an artist who did a series of cards that I just love. Brian, can't tell you his last name now, but he does the most intriguing cards. And we have a store here where I live that's called Blue Stem, and it carries art, or at least it used to. I don't know, they may have changed because I know they've sold the store. But they carry art from Missouri artists and all of the neighboring states around Missouri. It's the way it used to be. I don't remember his last name, but he has the most unique artwork. If I was at the other house, I could go get a card and show it to you. But I can't because I'm here. Anyway, I love his take on life. So there's that. She tapped her finger and nothing happened, and she thought she had lost her magic. But it only changed, and it took her a while to figure it out. That, I think, is another quote from one of his cards. These were very specific. This whole book was about who you are, or something, as I recall. That the exercise was about kind of where you were in life and how things had changed as you walked through various parts of your life. So I used a lot of his quotes. Treasures. The most important thing you leave behind is the stuff that turns into treasures when children find it. And that is so true. Treasures. The most important thing you leave behind is the stuff that turns into treasures when children find it. That is so true. Anyway, such a cute little book. And I saw it there, so I thought I'd show it to you. Yeah. And a lot of sprays, a lot of stencils, a lot of, a lot of stencils, a lot of, and there's stamping, and there's, I don't know, there's all kinds of stuff on it. So I saw the little spine things blowing in the wind back there from my fan, so I thought I'd show it to you. Hello, Rhonda. Thank you. Thanks. I just thought I'd show it to you. Anyway, we discussed this book a couple of times. Your Brain on Art. That's why I thought I would show you that one. And I wanted to read a little bit to you about the current chapter that I'm reading, which happens to have mandalas in it. So you can tell that I would like that, right? Because of this. Anyway, I'm going to read just a little bit, not too much. But I think what I want to encourage you about is if you don't have this book, and you are interested in how art, if you need a way to justify spending time doing art or being creative, this is your justification. If somebody thinks you're wasting your time, get this book and shove it in their face. Okay? All right. Not that anybody's doing that to me, but you know what I mean. Hello, Barbie. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us. We have G3 Brenda and B3 Barbie. This is getting confusing. It's nice to have you join us. Okay. So, I'm going to read this to you. Let me read it to you this way. All right, is the sound okay? Other than my voice is funky, but we're just going to have to put up with that, right? Hopefully the sound is okay for you guys. It's all good? Okay. Bingo. That's right. G3 and B3 bingo. Okay. Now, just take a listen to this. We have a friend, a successful lawyer, who keeps a couple of coloring books in her office for those times when she needs a mental break. A college counselor at a university recommends pottery workshops to overwhelmed students to help relieve their anxiety. For Susan, who's one of the authors, it's knitting, gardening, and collage that she practices to stay both grounded and in touch with her feelings. Ivy, who is the other author of this book, carries tuning forks in her bag because the resonant sounds of the notes C and G combined can soothe the stressful moment. And that was one of those that that I had to stop and think about, because I remember when the piano tuner would come, I always liked to listen to the tuning fork. So that made me stop and think. For all of us, there are times when life is too much to handle. When anxiety and burnout waylay us, relieving our stress is as important as eating food, drinking water, and sleeping. And in those moments, the arts and aesthetics make a big difference if you know how to use them. Think of the arts as an activity that changes your biology, emotional state, and enhances your mental well-being. Okay, if you don't need any other justification for being creative to some degree in some way, form, or fashion, that should be enough. When the arts become a regular practice, the way you might improve nutrition, increase exercise, and prioritize sleep, you unleash an innate tool that helps you navigate the peaks and valleys of your inner life. And the best news is that you don't have to be great or even good. Making art to experience the benefits. In a study, and I'm not going to say this person's name right, but Jiria Kamal, assistant dean for special research, initiates. Let me try it again. I got hung up on the name. We'll just call her Kaimal. Kaimal, assistant dean for the special research initiatives and an associate professor in the creative arts therapies program at Drexel University, found that for the majority of people, making art for as little as 45 minutes reduces the stress hormone cortisol, no matter your skill level or experience. If you do any reading and if you know anything about cortisol, it is a hormone in your body that does tremendous damage, and most of us have way too much of it coursing through our veins. So, coursing through our bodies. So that's a really, for that to be studied and analyzed, I think is amazing. Making art is physiologically calming, this professor explains. The study was set up with an art therapist in the room who could provide support as needed to allow for authentic self-expression. There was no judgment or expectation. Rather, participants were encouraged to focus on the process and to feel safe, thus reducing stress and anxiety. She reminds us that anyone can do this at home with simple materials if they can create without value judgments. Okay. I wanted to read another thing here about anxiety, because you have so many people talking about anxiety disorders today. Let me see. Hang on just a second. I lost where the place is. Okay. We are not always able to realize or sustain the quality of mental health we hope to. We are not alone. Globally, nearly 1 billion people struggle with their mental health. Depression is a leading cause of disability. Anxiety, loneliness, and toxic stress are on the rise, which can also have detrimental effects on our physical health. A generation of adolescents and young adults are experiencing epidemic levels of mental distress. For the first time since these statistics have been collected, mental illness is increasing at a faster rate than physical disease. There's a tangible ripple effect to all of this, including an increase in absenteeism at school and at work and higher rates of divorce. There is also an alarming sense of collective despair and an increasing lack of hope. As increase of what is called an increase of what are called, quote, diseases of despair, which include drug and alcohol overdose, alcoholic liver disease, and suicide. Okay, so that's kind of the bad news about all of that. But on the flip side, the good news is if you will spend even 20 minutes a day doing something creative, moving your hands, whether it's outside digging in the dirt, or you're inside and you're moving a pen around, or you're slapping some paint on something, or you're gluing something into a book, or you're writing, or whatever it is, 20 minutes a day, they've shown can have a marked impact on how you are. So it is amazing how much that really does help. So anyway, enough of that. Yeah, big hugs to you, Brenda. I understand. I really do. If I hadn't spent a whole year being suicidal, really suicidal, I would have not as much passion about this surrounding this subject. But it was a whole year, and every day it was a thing of gritting my teeth and hanging on and trying to find some way to be a little bit creative. And some days I just couldn't because there was too much else going on. But anyway, enough of that. Okay, so in my cleaning up, I thought I would show you some things that I ran across, because why not? Because why shouldn't I show you some stuff I found while I was cleaning up? And then I'm going to show you a flash from the past. So you remember me just now talking about that whole suicidal thing? That all happened during that year I was taking care of Claus Man. It was just a really, really tough year. Very tough year, because we were beginning to get past some of the pandemic and, all of that. It was the whole thing. It was the isolation. It was the dealing with someone with dementia. It was the whole ball of wax. And during that time, there were a few people who, I don't know how they knew, because I pretty much was absent from being online. I watched a lot of videos when I had time, and I stayed in contact a little bit with some people. But there were a few people that never stopped reaching out to me, and they didn't expect me to reach back to them. Thank goodness, because I was not capable of that. But this was during the time where there was a whole movement. I don't remember who started it. The Hearts of Love, and I found these yesterday, actually, the ones that people sent to me, and so I thought I would share them with you, because when these would arrive in my mailbox, I literally would take them out and hang them up, and I would see them hanging around in my whole environment. Barbie, I didn't know that. Yeah. Slow stitching was the thread that kept you alive. That is great. I'm glad you had that. I'm glad you had that, Barbie. Absolutely. So this one was from Creative Trish, Patricia Beauchamp. So this was in January of 22. This was actually it was after Clausman had passed away. But this was that whole 21 and 22 kind of all rolled into each other. And here's another one, which, I mean, they're if you look at this one, give you a kind of a close-up look. It's just lots of different bits and pieces of lace and appliques and stitches and so forth, and it's done on a fabric background, and then she mounted it on a piece of looks like chipboard or something. Here's another one. This one is layered up with felt and trims and little bits and pieces and a button and a little lace applique. And this one came from Becky McCauley, Aunt Beck's Creations, 2021. And I am not kidding you. When these would come in, they would go straight up on wherever. Like this one didn't have a hanging loop on it, and so I just pinned it onto a bulletin board or something. And I don't remember where this one came from, but it's got all kinds of sparkly things, and I think I'm not sure whether these are beads around the edge or if this was a piece of zipper. Kind of looks like that. But you can see there are different degrees of embellishment and so forth. And then with my VIP group at How to Get Creative, we did something similar. This is from an old quilt I have that is a cutter quilt. And what a cutter quilt is, in case you're not familiar, it is a quilt that is pretty much useless. Okay, it's got holes in it. It's falling apart. I had two of them. I don't know if I still have two, but I know I have this one. And I mean, the thing is it is just disintegrating. Okay, absolutely disintegrating. And so I have taken that quilt and I have made more things out of it. I've made pin cushions out of it. I've made book covers. I've done all kinds of things with it. Some of the things I've done with it, I've done machine stitching, free motion stitching. I'll get it out and show it to you some of these days. But I have done all kinds of things, and by using stitch, whether it's hand stitching or machine stitching, like I did with some of the free motion work, it stabilizes the old fabric. And it usually has to be applied to something else, but to totally stabilize it. But that quilt is now down there, and it's not going anywhere because I've used all of these different little slow stitch embroidery stitch things, and I've applied it to a piece of felt and backed the felt. And but this was something that we did in one of the VIP groups. And this is, hey Jan, and this was another one we did, same thing. It is many of the same stitches from this are in this. It's just used on white fabric, so it's white on white. And so I was encouraging the members to do these because these were so valuable for me. These meant so much to me, and there were some other ones that were paper that I couldn't find that people sent to me. I was encouraging people to do these. You know, they don't have to be fancy. They don't have to be terribly involved. But if you do some of these things like this and then send them out to other people, I'm telling you, you never ever know. You never know when you send something to somebody like that. You never know how the power of how that will impact that person. And there's something about a heart. Sometimes people don't like hearts. I've heard people go, I can't stand hearts. I hate Valentine's Day. Well, you know, get over yourself. Get over your fine self. And think about somebody else. That will help. Right? You're currently outside at Honeysuckle Ridge after oaking here. Oh, neat. Good to see you, Jan. Tell Mr. Bear hello, hello. That's neat. So another thing you can do, if you don't like hearts for some reason, you can do something along this line. Also, these were just a collage of fabrics. I'm sure I did this fabric, made this collage of fabric on stream. I can't imagine I didn't, because I always do, you know, my perpetual quest to get rid of scraps, to eliminate the scraps from my stash. I usually will use that on stream. And I collage lots of paper scraps and lots of fabric scraps. I really love doing fabric collages. And so that's what this was. A lot of wacky stitching on there. And then I cut out some different little fussy cut things like this kitty face and these stars, and stitch those on top as a focal point. They're put on that stiff felt that you can get at a craft store, and I just stitched around them. I'm sure that I probably die cut these out, but I don't know. Anyway, you can do the same thing with these. If you don't want to send a heart to somebody, put a ribbon on that and send a little, just a little surprise. These are thin enough they can be used for bookmarks. They also can just be hung up in your creative space or wherever you want. I have things hung all over my studio. I have right now I'm looking at 2 butterflies that Rhonda sent me, crystal butterflies, and they're hung up in my space here, and every time I see them I remember that Rhonda sent those to me, and they're beautiful. And when the light catches them, they have crystals in them, and they're amazing. And so these hearts, part of what I do is to keep things like this so that I have samples of things that I can share with you and show you. They're easier for me to pull them out of a plastic bag like this than they are for me to take them down and bring them over and show them to you. One of these days I'm just going to give it up and I'm just going to hang them up. I have a bulletin board that's going to go up on my wall over here, and that's probably where they're going to live. Hello, Barbara Clark. Hello, hello. Barbara Clark was one of the people that never let go of me during that time. She sent me in so many cards. They are all in my journals, And Barbara Clark and Becky, Aunt Beck's Creations, were two. There were many others, but those were two people in this group that continually reached out to me. And it was like every time they sent something, I was like at the very ragged edge. And so you just don't know how much you do for somebody else, something that's small, something that doesn't, those things are not expensive. They're not difficult to put in the mail. They're not going to cost you a lot of money. They cost you some time, but look what the benefit is that you get from the act of creating. And you can send those on to somebody else. Okay. Exactly. Lift each other up. It's not a cold. It is allergies. Yeah. It is not a cold. Okay, so what we're going to do now is, I shouldn't have done this in pencil, but you know, it is what it is. Okay, I need to put a cover on a journal. I know you love it when I do journal covering. I have other things to show you too, but I need to glue this on real quickly. And so I'm going to, this is from a tote bag actually. I cut this off the front of a tote bag. That's why it's got all this grunge all over it. The story behind this tote bag, which I cut the front off, I saved the back because I'll jelly plate print on it and actually probably get another journal cover out of it. The story about this is that I was a music major in college. I'm going to tell this to you while I glue. I was a music major in college. Specifically, I was a piano major. And here we go. I was a piano major in college, and I did not go on in pursuit of my musical career because I got married. When I was that age, which I was 19 when I got married, that's what you did, you know. When I was in school, I'm just spreading tacky glue on this. When I was in school, back in the dark ages, back in the 1900s, as APG Jamie likes to say, that's pretty much what you did. When I was in school, I was going to a 2-year school, and it was not at all uncommon for it was a very special thing, actually, I should say, that somebody would schedule, it was always impromptu, they would schedule this thing called a candlelight and in the dorm. And the candlelight was a big deal. Everybody, it was always late at night, and all the girls would have to go downstairs, and we'd all sit in a circle. This sounds so archaic now. We'd all sit in a circle, and they would have, it was a real candle, and they would pass this candle around. I don't know, we sang some song, I don't even remember what it was. And you would pass the candle because you didn't know whose candlelight it was, right? And then finally, when it would get to a certain point in the song, whomever was the special girl would blow out the candle. And then there was all of this, oh, you know, everybody was so excited because this girl had had her candlelight. And what that meant, it could mean a variety of things. One was, it could mean that you had been pinned by a guy who was a fraternity guy, you know, and he would pin you with his pin, his fraternity pin. Yeah. Okay, hold on. I guess I can show you what I'm doing here now. Alright, so what I've got is I've got this cover with glue on it. And I'm going to try to get this on here as evenly as possible. Anyway, this is all to explain to you why it was a big deal, you know, because that was your goal in school, was to get pinned or engaged or, you know, whatever. It's the thing that said, you know, you weren't on the market anymore, basically. Anyway, so you had these candlelight things that went on. And of course, every time there was a candlelight, if you weren't the one having the candlelight, oh, you know, you'd have to fight the green-eyed monster about being jealous because so-and-so else had their candlelight. Anyway, so that was the whole big goal. So don't you know, that was what you were supposed to do, was to essentially not so much have a career or a plan for your life as it was you were supposed to figure out who it was you were going to marry and all of that good stuff, right? Yeah. I do have, and it is something I have wrestled with a lot. I did not finish my college career. I finished 2 years and got a degree, a 2-year degree, but what I was majoring in was piano. And I have not suffered as a result of, I mean, it hasn't held me back in my life, although there are a few regrets about it I do carry around with me, like, you know, it's easy to get to this point in my life and go, gosh, I should have gone to school, finished my degree, and worked for a long time, and then I would have had a few more benefits in my life financially. But you know, the things that I got, money could not buy. I got to raise a stepdaughter and my son, and I got to help Clausman with his business, and I got to teach all kinds of things for a long time. I taught piano for 19 years. I taught decorative painting, toll and decorative painting in my home. I taught sewing. I taught tailoring. I taught all different kinds of things like that. And you know, if I had been locked into being a, let's just say, a college professor, for example, as a music professor, which is unlikely, but let's just say that's what I chose to do, I wouldn't have ever tried any of those other things, and I certainly wouldn't have had the remarkable experiences I've had with my kids and grandkids and my stepdaughter and so forth and so on. Anyway, all of that to say that after I completed my 2-year degree and I got married at the ripe old age of 19, and became an instant mother to a 10-year-old. That's how old my stepdaughter was when I got married. Instant mother to a 10-year-old. I continued teaching piano, and then our son was born, and you know him as Race. And he was born, and then when he got old enough to study music, I wanted him to take piano lessons, because I think everybody needs to learn how to play a musical instrument of some kind. Okay. And so I scheduled him with Herbert Music Studios. Connie Herbert was the owner of the studio, and I wanted him to learn, and so we put him in music there, piano, and he learned the Suzuki method, then he learned to read music, and so forth and so on. Anyway, during that time, my love of playing, because I had only taught for a while, was kind of reignited, and so I just happened to ask her one day. I said, "Is there any chance you take adult students?" And she said, "Oh yeah." And I said, "Well, do you think that maybe I could study with you?" And I mean, it was just kind of a fluke for me that I decided to do that. And she said, "Oh yeah, I'd love for you to do that." Well, to cut to the chase, I studied with her for a long time until she moved away to California. We also became partners, and by being partners, I mean that I played the piano with her, and we performed together, and we played at the University of Missouri, and we played in Kansas at a studio there. We performed there in a recital hall that they had, and we did 2 piano things and 4 hands at 1 piano and that kind of thing, and it was a remarkable experience to be able to do that. That was always my first love, was ensemble work, and I always loved it. And so we did some really neat stuff together, but she also was my teacher. And so it was a funny relationship of teacher, student, and partner. The reason I'm telling you this is because I think it's important, and it doesn't make any difference what area that your specialty is, in a creative sense especially. I think it's really good to continue to hone your craft and to continue to learn. And so all these years later, in my cleaning up and sorting out and going through stuff, I found this tote bag. And this was something that they handed out back then. And they handed out the 2 tote bags to everybody. And I carried this tote bag for years with my music in it. And I ran across it when I was cleaning out stuff at the other house, and I thought, at first I threw it in the trash, and then I thought, because it's all, you see all the wear and tear on it. I'd colored this with, I guess, colored pencils or crayons, I don't know. I did that years and years and years ago, probably when I was bored one day. And so I thought, I think that would actually make a good cover for a journal, and it will remind me to always take time to continue studying and learning. And so you can't see the whole piano. It's irrelevant. I don't care. It doesn't matter. And then I have a mandala that was on the front of this journal, and I removed it. I'll probably stick it back on here somewhere. And maybe some other ones, who knows? Because I have a love of music and of art and of creativity and of teaching. And that's the story of this. So what I'm going to do with this now is I will put it under weight. I'll just put some wax paper around it. And I will stick it under some weight, and I will let it thoroughly dry. Then I will cut the edges. And then what I will do is I will probably have to ink around the edge or add some trim or something, because I marked around it with pencil, which was stupid. Anyway, so I'm just going to stick it over here where it can stick under the weight. Okay, so there you go. There's that. Yeah, okay, so I missed the entire discussion here. Let me run back for a second. Okay, let me run back. I'm just scanning through the chat just for a second. Um, Yeah, why? And Barbie says, "Why get a PhD when you get an MRS?" I know, it's true. Yeah. Okay, I don't see anything else. Still don't know what you want to be when you grow up. Isn't that the truth? Yep, yep. Isn't that the truth? Okay, so fast forward. Okay, so we've gone through my music segment of my I started playing the piano when I was 7, I think, and then which was late for some, you know. Suzuki starts them very, very young. Um, so I started when I was like 7. Study piano. I studied piano until I was in my 40s, and until my partner teacher ran away, moved away. Anyway, and I've always done other creative kinds of things, as I mentioned. And at one point, I became a cloth doll pattern designer, and I ran across these. These are my patterns. Some of them, it's not all of them, but these are the ones I started with. And this was back, okay, let's talk about how important it is to choose your name. If you're going to choose a name online, okay, let's choose a name online that we put thought into, and not a name that you're just being forced into. Mom, you got to have a name for this business. That's a direct quote. And so I inadvertently came up with this name that was not one of my best choices. This was back before the internet was pretty new. Public access to the internet was pretty new, and so you will be able to see my misfortune of the name that I chose, which I've ended up moving or changing, as we say, right? Hey, Devin. Oh, yes. Anyway, as you can see, this is not a very good choice of name. I had many, many, many questionable contacts. Anyway, so this is the doll that actually started all of it. I know, right? At least you guys can all laugh about it. Hey, Mickey. So anyway, this was from my initials. My name is Barbara Jane, and so those were for my initials, and that was, yeah, anyway. This was the first doll that I did, and there's a history behind this. I'll tell you about that sometime, but anyway, this whole doll came from that point in time. And then this, because it's Harriet's heart, she's holding a heart, which you can hardly see there, I know. This was back when we were taking photographs and then having to have the photographs printed at a local place. And I mean, just to get the inset picture here was a big deal back then. Big deal. But this one launched a whole series of heart dolls, and so this was the next one. This was Hannah's heart. And I have many of these examples of these dolls. And the pin doll, back when I was doing this, a pin doll was a big thing. And a pin doll is exactly what it sounds like. It's what doll makers like to trade. Like we trade ATCs and mail art and that kind of thing. They would trade pin dolls. And so as long as it was a doll that was small, it could be just the head, it could be the actual doll, it could be any number of things, abstract, realistic, whatever. But as long as it had a pin on the back of it that you could actually pin onto something, it was qualified as a pin doll. Some of them were big, some of them were really small. Anyway, this was, so I included a small doll pattern in this, for this in a small size. Anyway, bonus pin doll. So this is Hannah's heart. This was back, she was born when the shooting happened in Littleton, Colorado, when those high school boys went into the school there and killed so many of their classmates and teachers, and that was just such a gripping thing for me back then. And this was the doll that came from that was very much a huge part of healing my heart. Even though I was not directly impacted by that, I was very much impacted by that. Anyway, so there's that. And then this one was the next one. So this was the Heart series. There were 3 of these dolls in this, and so this was Hillary's heart. She hangs up with fish line, and these are wings back here. And this is a drawn face, one that I drew, and from that I did a version. I created rubber stamps, and so for each of these dolls, for each of these figures, there was a stamp so that people could stamp the outline of the face on, and then I could teach you how to do the face very simply using colored pencils and pens. And so that's what launched our rubber stamps that we had available for a long time. I no longer have them, although I did run across a bunch of seconds of the rubber stamps, so I may be able to actually have some of those available for people. Anyway, from there, fast forward, I then started doing needle sculpting. All of those doll faces I just showed you are called a tab head, which is just stitching around an oval, a double layer of fabric, stitching around, cutting it open, turning it, and then stuffing it. And so the face, the surface of the face is just, it's just a smooth surface. And so you create the detail and the dimension with colored pencils and so forth. Okay, this one then launched the needle sculpting, which was adding a seam down the middle of the face so that now she has a profile, which I can't show you because it's a flat picture. But this was teaching people. Needle sculpting was a huge mystery for not only for me but for most people, in how to actually make this face do this thing, and how you added stitches and how you added coloring, and what did you use to add the coloring and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, that launched. This was my most popular pattern ever, this one, Flower Faces. This launched the book that I wrote on needle sculpting, and so this pattern, I sold hundreds of this pattern back when I was producing it. Anyway, I ran onto these when I was there we go. I ran onto these patterns when I was sorting, and I thought, I will show these to you because it's part of my history. Okay, now you might not think that creating a pattern is any big deal. All right, doesn't seem like it should be a big deal. However, I want to show you a little bit about what goes into the creation of a pattern. I won't belabor this very long. Okay? I will not belabor this very long, but I took a class. I went to a convention because we had doll conventions back then. And I went to this convention and I took a class from a woman named Colette Wolfe, who is quite well known in the fiber. I don't know if she still is, but in fabric and fiber, she is meticulous. And I didn't know that she did dolls. I didn't know that. And I took this class because all the other classes had filled up. So I took this class. And so I thought I would show you just a little bit about this class. And let's see if I can't put these in order because they are far too There are far too many of them to put in order, but hang on just a minute so I can, I'm trying to get myself in order here to show you before I flip the camera. But just to show you how this whole pattern development takes place. I can't show it exactly because I don't know where the very first page is, so let me see if one more little look through here. Anyway, I took this class with Colette. It was quite a group of people that were in this class, varying levels of proficiency, sewing and design proficiency. I was marginally ready to take the class, just marginally. And okay, well, I can't show you that because I'll get myself kicked straight off YouTube if I show you this. A lot of this is like anatomy. Okay, never mind. We can't look at that. I'm just going to show you straight up how many things you go through to develop a pattern. Okay? Now, this is what I'm going to show you is, I know, I'm waffling, I know. Okay, this is what you go through, and I have, for the patterns that I have done, I have all of these stages. I did not go, my patterns are much simpler, were much simpler, and are much simpler than this. But I am not even kidding you. This is how much in this class that I did, which went on for several days. And by the time this class was over, I was absolutely so exhausted with this process of developing a doll, a pattern that was then 100% mine, because it started out from a thing like this. Okay, we started with this, which is where the proportions are, and then you started sketching and drawing and refining and then figuring out what you had to do to achieve the dimension and all that kind of stuff. But look at all this. I mean, and then this was the final, one of these is the final, apparently not this one, but this one was the final. Okay, this is how the doll is going to look. Okay, and then we had to turn it, we had to stitch it. Okay, look at all this. You see all those marks on there and all that slash and spread? That's to get the shape. Oy, she went through a lot to develop her dolls. And then this was as far as I got with this actual doll. But you can see all the darting. Can you see all that darting in the head to achieve? And this is like, you could hurt somebody with this. I could hurt somebody with this. This is stuffed so hard. I never did finish stuffing the arms and finishing, you know, going to completion with her and the feet and all of this. This was a doll. She could sit. Meticulous in the way that, I mean, I don't sew my dolls together like this, but it was an interesting way to learn. But she had a waist, a belly button. She didn't have a butt crack. I don't know why, but she had, I mean, let me just tell you, it was a lot. It was a crazy lot of work that she put us through, that I had already been designing doll patterns, and I'm thinking it was really good to learn all that, but holy cow, I'm like, everybody should be really happy about how simple my dolls are to put together. How simple. So you know what I'm going to do with all those pattern pieces? I'm going to take all those pattern pieces and I'm going to glue them in a journal. because I'll never use that again. I will never go to that level of detail ever again in my life. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue them in a journal, and I'm going to write about that experience from back then. It was very complicated. It really was. I used to make French Canadian dolls in egg. Ah, interesting. She probably doesn't know me. This is way back. Okay, so enough of that. Let's do something fun now. All right, we did this last, when did we do this? Friday? I think it was Friday we did these. This is from the collage, this journal by Eleanor Shakespeare. And this was fill the frames with photos of friends and family. And so, as is my typical style, in every journal I have a photo gallery, a photo lineup of my family, or my crazy relatives, or my goofy relatives, whatever you want to call them. Right? Journal fodder is right. Do you plan to finish Beyond Mandala? It is. I have it in a box over here, and the answer is yes. And the answer to when, I have no idea. But yes, that is a plan. It is in my plan, but I have no schedule on that. I had to just give it up. Life got too crazy and complex and went upside down for too long. So, yeah. So yes, but I don't know when. Okay, so we made this photo gallery. These are photo color copies of my goofy relatives that I have drawn. It's on the list, the to-do list, yes. Mandala Madness, yes, but not Beyond. Yeah, Mandala Madness is still available. Yeah. The Beyond one, no. But at some point, it will come out. The class will. I have a lot of the videos filmed for it, refilmed for it, but, it just, remember, here's the deal. The pandemic hit. Everything went into lockdown. I did Beyond Mandala Madness as a way to keep me sane and entertain people. So I did that. And the whole goal at that point, because it made total sense, is to take the videos that I had done and turn those into a class that anybody could access. There were too many things. I couldn't use the videos straight from the live streams. I had to refilm a lot of those. Most of them had to be refilmed. I did refilm a lot of those. I lost part of the footage. This is, nobody cares about this, but I'm telling it to you anyway. And then, so that happened. The whole pandemic thing was insane for everybody. Totally for everybody. But life was spiraling in my life with Clausman. It was beginning to go faster and faster downhill. And then early in 21, very early in 21, like the first week of 2021 is when he fell and hit his head. And then from that point through the entire rest of that year, it was just like fasten your seatbelts. And it was just a crazy, crazy year. We went into the next year, and I'm now newly widowed, and I'm having to figure out how to get my feet under me, And the last thing on my life, the last thing on my head, the last thing on my heart, the last thing I wanted to do was to go back and revisit something that had contained so much emotion. And so that's why it all kind of got shelved. So that's just the honest truth about it. But hopefully it will be coming back together. Okay? So. And then Elton came into the picture. Yeah, he did. He sure did. Blew into my life. Okay, so I had some really great ideas for names for these. And so I thought we should add names for these relatives, don't you think? And so I'm going to just sort of pencil them in here, and then we will add the names. So this one the suggestion was Felix. Okay, so F-E-L. So I am going to just do, I know you probably can't see this. Let's zoom way in so you can see. I'm just doing these kinds of letters. All right, I always have to think X. Okay, F-E-L. Okay, so we need an E. I'm trying to kind of center this. All right, then we need an F. Okay, so good enough. All right, let me grab a pen and we're gonna go right over that. All right, let's see if this one will work. Okay, so let's just go over these letters. In case you can't tell, this requires some concentration on my part. And I don't care that they are perfect. I do care that it's spelled right. Okay. Okay, Felix. All right. I don't know who we should call her. I had suggestions of Verna, this one, I'm sorry, Verna, Lillian, Hildegard, and Thelma, and Theodora. Girl names. Now, I'm going to tell you, Hildegard and Theodora are a lot of letters. Let's choose something shorter. Thelma. I think she kind of looks like a Thelma. Do you think she looks like Thelma? How about if we call her Thelma? Once this ink on this is 100% dry, I'm going to come back and erase the pencil, the graphite out of it, or I'll just color it in with black. I don't know. Thelma? All right, let's call her Thelma, and let's just start. Let's just start here and just go out this way. Okay, T. H. Again, I'll zoom in so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, E. Ooh, I hope I have room. Okay, E. Ooh, I didn't give myself enough room. L. Okay. Well, let's see if we can do this again. Because I did not give myself enough room. That's why you do it in pencil. Yeah, that's why you do it in pencil, folks. Most of the time I do it straight in ink. All right, we're going to have to put it underneath. Okay, so let's go again. T. I was never known for my spacing of thing. H. And I don't care that the letters are not perfect. E, L, all right, now comes the challenging letter M. Okay, M. All right, did we get an M? That's reasonable. And A. Good enough. Okay. Elton. Elton cannot keep his mouth shut. Okay, so here we go. Thelma. Okay, we're going to name him next, so you guys be thinking about what we're going to call him. And here we go with A. Okay, there's Thelma. Thelma. Felix. All right, who is this boy right here? Bye, Dorothy. Hope you keep getting better and better. Lester or Edwin? This one should be Lester or Edwin. Okay, we don't have a lot of room here, so. All right, Lester or Edwin. Edwin is how many letters? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, we're gonna Ned. Oh, I like Ned. Ned's nice and short. Let's do Ned, because I don't have a lot of room here. Okay, let's make him Ned. Okay, is that all right with you guys? Hopefully. All right, here we go. N. Okay, we got N. E. And D. I like Lester or Edwin, but I didn't have enough room, so we had to go with Ned. When you're doing lettering like this, because I've done a lot of this kind of lettering, I still screw it up every once in a while, you know, because that's just the way it is. I like the wonkiness of this style of lettering, and I don't always do it in pencil first. Sometimes I just go for it and do it in ink. But if you're not sure how to do this kind of lettering, you can I'll give you a quick little guide. You can take a piece of paper and you can, let's say you want to do Ned. You can just write the letters out the way you want them. Okay, spelling is always going to be a little tricky. So write it out. All right, then take that, and then you can either move outside these lines like this, and you can just go outside the lines, and then on this one I would square it off like this, and then that gives you a little bit of leeway if you write it out, you know, to start with, like so. If you can't see in your mind how to just go okay, if that doesn't come out, then start out with just a single line and then start embellishing or thickening the letters from that. So we can go here and here. I usually make the center part of the E not as long, like that. And then this one's easy because all you got to do is just make another D inside. So you can do that. Okay? Another thing you can do is to go on each side of that line. Okay, so go on each side of the line. So like your initial letter is the center, becomes the center line. And sometimes that's a little bit easier when you're getting started to do that. And so I would come around here like this, and then put your middle in like that. So that way you can actually do your spacing first, and that way when you add the thickness around the letters, your spacing doesn't change very much. Okay, so there's that. Okay, so let's go back to our family and friends here. Okay, so let's go up here to this guy. Who do you think this is? And again, I don't have very much room here, so we can't have it be too long. That Elton, what am I going to do with him? What do you think we should call him? Bob? I like Bob. He does kind of look like a Bob. Okay, let's call him Bob. In the meantime, be thinking about what we're going to call her, because we have quite a bit of room that we can put down here for her name, and then these two guys, there's some room there for them. We're going to call this guy Bob. Okay? So B is another tricky letter. So the first thing we're going to, all right, let's just go for it. Let's just go for it and see how it works out. Okay, B. Okay, here we go. So we got that. And we're just going to put in the little center parts of the B. Put in that. Okay, and in this case, I'm going to kind of go around him a little bit and tuck part of that letter in behind his shoulder. All right, so let's fill this one in. Another thing you can do with these, when your letters, when your name is too long, for example, so let's take another slight digression here. So let's say we'd have very little space to put Ned's name, real tiny space. So another thing you can do is start with your first letter, and then you can tuck this one tuck it in behind that one, and then tuck the D in behind there. And so just scrunch them all up so you can crunch your letters together. So that's another thing you can do. Okay, so let's do her. So what do you think we should call her? We do have some room down here. This can take a fairly good name. You think she looks like a Judy? You think this lady with the crown looks like Judy? I think Hildegard is an awfully good name, but it is long. I don't know that I've got enough room. Maybe we can squeeze that in there. Think we can? Francis? I don't know. What do you think? Nothing's jumping out at me yet. We need an old name. Don't you think? Hilda? Hilda's a good one. Hilda might be a good name for her. I think maybe Hilda is it. All right, let's go for Hilda. I think Hilda is it. All right. Don't you agree Hilda should be it? All right. Let's Hilda. I have to write it down so I can see. Okay, L is the middle letter. We're just going to go for it. Okay, you ready? All right, wish me luck. It's always a little nerve-wracking doing this on stream. Hill, H-I. Now you can, write lines, give yourself guidelines and all that kind of stuff. I don't do that. L D. We're going to have to work around the butterfly here. N A. Okay, so there's Hilda, and it's going kind of downhill, and whatever. Hazel's another good one. Yeah. We chose Hilda. One of the things that's an advantage if you do it in pencil, if you're not trying to talk while you're doing it, is you can correct yourself if you make a mistake. But if you're talking, that's a whole other story. Okay, there's Hilda. Okay. And granted, you can't see every letter, but c'est la vie. Okay, and now we have these two boys right here. I'm assuming this is a dad and a son. Frickin' frack. Tom and Jerry. Oh, I like Tom and Jerry. All right, which is which? Is this Tom and that's Jerry? Ferenz and Joseph. That's too hard for me to... We should make one of these Elton, don't you think? Who do you think we should have? Who do you think should be who? I think we'll make this one Elton. That'll be good. He'll give me a bunch of trouble for that, don't you think? Okay, who should we call this one? The one with the bird is Elton? It's too late. I made the kid Elton. Bert and Ernie. That's good. How about Ernie and Elton? Okay, let's do that. Ernie. E-R-N-I-E. E-R-N-I-E. Okay, N's the middle letter. Okay, we're going to make this one Ernie. N-I-E-E-R. Now, R is a tricky one. R. Okay, there's R, such as it is. E. Okay, Ernie, and we're going to just put a dot there. Ernie and Elton. Okay. Your brother's name is Ernie. Ernest, but Ernie for short. Cool. All right, here we go. So, Ernie. E. All right, let's see if we can make this R look a little bit better. Not necessarily a whole lot better, but maybe a smidge better. N. I. E. And then just a dot so that they separate a little bit. And then we're going to do Elton. Do you know what Elton's middle name is? Have I told you that? You know my middle name because I told it to you already. Okay, there's the E. L. And N. Okay, there we go. So what I will do is probably just fill in those letters because I think that would be the thing that would make them show up the most. All right, let's see if I can find a thicker pen here. I'm reaching across my, nope, that's a wedge. I'm reaching across my desk, you guys, sorry. All right, let's do this. This is a brush pen. Elton John? No? Good guess. You will never, ever guess his name. His middle name. Starts with a W. But the way we get people to remember his name is by using Elton John. Because most people look at you, they want to call him Eldon, or they look at you cross-eyed like, Elton? What kind of name is that? And then you say Elton John, they go, oh, oh yeah. Are any of you working in this book or doing something similar? You know, making your own art journal with following some of the prompts? I hope you are. And a okay, Miss Thelma, there you go. You are, Starla? Okay. Oh, cool, Terry. That's great. All right, let's fill in Ned. We'll just do the ones on this page, and then we'll call it a night. I think my talking voice has about had what it can handle for today. Hopefully you kind of enjoy me showing you some of how I got where I am with the art stuff. I mean, if you don't enjoy it, you may not want to hang around here for a while, because it's going to go on for a little while as I keep unearthing things and going, oh, I forgot about that. The thing about doing these letters nice and thick and in black is that I can come back with a gel pen later and I can embellish the letters if I want to, which I almost always like to do. Now, of course, in something like this, I think when she wrote this book, I have a feeling that the author envisioned that you would take it more seriously than I am. But I think it's a lot more fun to just come up with stuff that's just nonsensical, and it doesn't have to be serious. It just doesn't have to be. If you use a brush pen like this, you can fill these letters in pretty quickly. These pens that I'm using, these King Art pens, came from Walmart. And I don't know if they're going through to the other page. I guess I should look at that. No, okay, well, that's good to know. It's a fine time to check, isn't it? They were very reasonably priced. So if you have a Walmart close to you, you might check and see if they have the King Art pens. They also have them in color and as well as black. Okay, and so we are going to call that good for tonight. So you can see the difference that you have when you fill in the letters versus just letting them be outlined. I think that it's a big improvement. And so then, like I said, can come back once that ink is really, really dry, come back and embellish with gel pens and that kind of stuff, which I think would be fun to do. I think it'd be fun to just take this whole book and just, embellish, doodle through the book. After all, like this book says, it gives us permission to doodle 20 minutes a day, at least, because that 20 minutes a day is going to save our sanity. And it really may. Who knows? Okay. I think you're right, Starla. I think you're right. Okay. With that, hey, Catherine. Wesley? No. His middle name is Weddle. I told you you'd never guess it. All right. With that, I'm going to take off for today. Thank you for putting up with my congested voice and head. And I will be back on Friday. I stream Monday evenings at 7 Eastern and Friday nights Monday night at 7 Eastern and Friday afternoon at 2 Eastern. Okay, so that is 6 Central and 1 Central. Okay? Like, it's just Weddle, just like it sounds. Just like it sounds. All right, I'm going to go now. Thank you all for being here, and I will see you before you know it. Remember to get creative today because you know it's easy, and I'll see you very soon. Bye for now.